Hello everyone, Burb here. Today I'm going to be starting off our role-based guides by talking about pace chasers in the Libra Cup. If you're unaware, this builds off of the Libra Cup overview video that I did about a week ago. That's available to you if you wish, but today I'm going to be talking about skills, cards, and characters for the pace chaser position. I think a lot of people are hyped about pace chasers in particular because this is the first straight descent map that we've seen in Champions League since at least I've started doing these CM guides. And I think a lot of people after this dirt track we've just come off of are kind of hyped just to go and play the characters that they actually enjoy. A lot of characters in this game are natural pace chasers and they are actually quite viable, I think, in my opinion. And I think that you should be running the characters that you enjoy in these competitive settings. Again, that's my personal opinion on the matter. This is, of course, the first of the 4 role-based guides. The other 3 will be in the coming days. So today, let's keep and stay focused on pace chasers. Do note that due to the number of characters that are actually natural pace chasers, I can't necessarily get to absolutely every single one of them. I've tried my best to include as many as possible, and I can think you'll be able to see to the length of the video. Don't be intimidated by it. A lot of it is actually the character section, but I will be formatting this slightly differently. I will be going through a cross section of the pace chasers in the character section. Then I will be giving you the checklist about midway through. Check the chapters in the description for that if you wish. And then after that, I will be going over what I believe to be some interesting characters afterwards. I don't have absolutely every single character because I probably missed a couple. We may go back to it in some sort of tier list video if we have time after all the role-based guides in the actual CM cycle. Otherwise, the rest of this is pretty much standard format to what you've seen on this channel, but I've done my best to try to include as many as possible, so please take that into account. With that out of the way, let's talk about pace chasers. Are pace chasers good? I think they're quite viable. Again, they have an additional acceleration this time in straight descent. They do lose Taiki ult, but with that addition, things get a little weird in my opinion. The other 3 roles have like an actual game plan of hitting an Excel and using a supplementary Excel to go and win the game with their late race. Pace Chasers kind of just shotgun, and that's kind of their downside, I suppose. As a late surger main, I'm kind of used to this, but as a pace chaser player, you may not be used to this. Basically, because this is a shorter track, Nimble Navigator is not as reliable. That's normally your primary acceleration. And so you kind of just throw all your accels into the wind and hope some stick, right? So it's not necessarily the normal game plan that you're used to, but other than that, they have low PDM. Their entire MO is basically stay close to the front runners and then try to surpass them via their extra late race speed. They are rather lower late race speed, so they do need those late race skills to supplement it, but because you have quite a few actual excels that are useful, and many of your mid-race options, including the Tachyon card, are on those speed and wit cards. You do have access to a lot of mid-race and a lot of various different accelerations. Your trouble is going to be getting that late race on it, but again, you have inherits like Ogre Cap that's really going to help you in that regard. We'll go over that in the skill section. Do not worry. I wouldn't worry too much about viability. I think this is a rather balanced Champions meeting. I just think that it's kind of a different strategy than you're kind of used to if you are a pace chaser main. For stat suggestions, you may want a little bit additional stamina due to your HP conversion ratio of 11% worse than the rest of the pack, but I think if you're at 600, this is already slightly overstammed. Do note that a white recovery is worth less than a green if you're able to get a green stamina skill at the moment. Otherwise, I don't think you really should need too many recoveries at this point. 600 should be perfectly fine, and I think you'll be getting somewhere around the sort just from running natural Grand Live. Otherwise, I think you should be keeping a balance of power and wit. Do remember that these stats are logarithmic, so if you have like 1600 wit, but you have like 600 power to make it extreme, you're not going to have as much success as someone who just has like 1100. So go and try to balance out your power and wit. Try to get your speed as high as possible. 1500 is a good goal to go through, and it should be a little bit easier because the stamina requirement is not as high as the previous champions meetings. For your skills, to start out, you have really 3 primary acceleration options, and you can kind of pick and choose. The white versions of these are all perfectly fine in my opinion. You have Nishino Flower's Budding Blossom, which should be your primary inherit option. You have Head On or Neck and Neck, which is basically a late race gamble acceleration that on the 7.1 patch has been buffed to have very good timing, especially on these shorter tracks. Determined Descent and Straight Descent is basically the same way due to where the downhill is on this. If it does proc at the right time, it basically is a very, very good acceleration that can kind of compete with the head-on as well. And of course, it is not position bound like I suppose head-on is, but Budding Blossom mainly needing third and fourth place. That's really the only issue that it particularly has. Otherwise, I'm going to be talking about straight descent and determined descent. Determined descent is a little bit weird. It's kind of like forward march, where it's the gold version's only an additional 0.1. Now, I believe it's still a 3-second duration, so it does still have some value, and it does give you an additional 1.2 lengths of value. But this is very different from stuff like neck and neck and head on, where it goes to 0.4, then it goes from from 0.2 before. So the actual increase from white version to gold version on this particular skill has lower value than normal. What I will say though is that the peak of it is still significant. It's 1.2 lengths. However, because this is you can kind of consider this to be a triangle. This flares out a little bit here, but if it's procking this late, you're probably not winning anyways. To simplify things down, have just kind of made it a triangle, and it's near isosceles because the midpoint of the start of the downhill at 950 and where I would deem to be that final straight where if you proc it, it's not really going to do anything is around that 1200 meter mark, let's say. It's sort of a isosceles triangle, which means its average height is 50% of its max. So its expected actual increase for going to the gold value is roughly 0.6-ish. Now, do note that a tripulse is about 0.5, and like any other Excel skill, if you proc, even if it is unreliable, like Nimble Nav, if it procs early enough, is around that 2 to 3 length value. So, a lot of people have been suggesting this Nishino Wit card. I think it's fine. I don't think it's the be-all, end-all, and I think a lot of people will go and have a lot of success with stuff like Fine Motion because she gives you the chance of getting those 2 speed greens and outer post if you count that, as well as Nimble Nav, as well as Speed Star as well. And I think that if you are able to loop in straight descent into your parents a little bit, you probably don't need this Nishino Wit card. I don't think it's the particularly best Wit card in the game either, and I think there's been a lot of discourse about it. I think the white version on this particular skill is fine as long as you're supplementing it enough with these other options. And I think head-on and straight descent might be the targets for the CM if you are trying to loop in to your parents at least a couple of sparks on those and see what you are able to get. That's my personal opinion on the matter. I don't think you necessarily absolutely need that additional 0.1 on a gamble acceleration because yes, it increases the peak, but that peak's only going to happen, like, let's say 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 4 times instead of, like, if you were doing this on a guaranteed Excel, it would make a lot more sense. It's not bad to take it, though. That's not what I'm trying to say. If you're going to take it, feel free. It's just you're spending, that 160 extra skill points or whatever it is, when you could be spending it on other stuff in the game as well. So its value is a little bit more diminished than people, I think, are saying at the moment. For secondary acceleration, this is where I think it really kind of opens up a bit. You do have IG Power if you are running Unity stuff, or you do have Nimble Navigator, which I think is a very good supplementary, even though it does only proc probably about 1 out of every 5 races in terms of what I've empirically tested in room matches and stuff. It works a lot better if there are a lot of pace chasers. And then you have Special Week, I think, is the other main Excel. It is a 0.05, but due to its, passing timing and its thing, it's going to at least give you the velocity because it's current speed no matter what. And I Never Goof Up has always been a gamble, Meisho Doto gamble 0.1 edition as well. These I don't think are 100% necessary because you do have 3 primary options available to you, but they do exist. Otherwise, you can go and gamble for angling and scheming and hope for lucky pace. Victoria por Plancha is kind of the same way, but I think it's a little bit too late on that straight. And Best Day Ever, which is Fine Motion Wedding, doesn't give you, I think, enough to warrant it in particular because it is a 0.05 as well. These are kind of other iffy ones, like maybe if you're looping it in anyways. I don't suggest Corner Con in particular. It's just too much corner this time, and it's only going to happen 1 out of every 8 times. Rushing Gale is going to at best proc at the straight, which is not going to give you that much, maybe a half length if you actually hit your 0.4 neck and neck or something. I guess it can get you a little bit of a groundwork proc, but otherwise Highlander's too late. Corner Connoisseur is 1 out of 8, like I said. Acceleration and Tactical Tweak won't proc on time, and you shouldn't be in the back half of the pack as well. On that point, don't think leap forward's a great choice for pace chasers because I don't think you should be in the back half of the pack, and usually this means that there's a late surger in front of you anyways, so you're going to lose. Otherwise, shooting for victory does not leak this time, so it just happens too early. Nishino Flower ult, on the other hand, does specify, sorry, it's so far back, does specify late race, so it does perfect proc this time. So Taiki Shuttle ult does not work this time. Taiki Shuttle ult does not work this time. Otherwise, Red Shift is on the straight. Sorry, it's too early this time because Final Corner is too early, so it's not going to work either. A lot of people, the way you really get good, I guess, at pace chasers is that you need to be faster than the other pace chasers in the early race to get your position early before that final corner. There's a lot of skills in the game that help you with that. People have talked about groundwork a lot and shrewd step a lot. Yes, they do work. They are very good. They technically are slightly luxury above your other stuff, but I think we're starting to get to the point where you can start looking for these things. Now, it's not a be-all end-all to have them, but if you have it and someone else doesn't, you're going to find you're in front of them in the early race a lot. And that's quite useful because you don't get no zoned, and that final corner is very difficult to pass people as well. Otherwise, standard stuff like See You Later will proc early usually. Big Sisterly, Mile Maven, Uma Stan even, Perfect Spot and Slipstream, ramp up and it's on, and Pace Chaser Straights and Mile Straights should proc 50-50 in this early race or as a late race skill. You have a lot of early race options, but I'm kind of being a little loose with the term early race, but should proc on that first corner or in that early race part where you are vying for position. For mid-race options, you have Unstoppable on Agnes Tachyon, that's your primary. Otherwise, all corner skills either are in this little like 5% chance at dead zone or are a chance at speed carryover or are a mid-race skill. Changing gears is the same way. Stuff like the 50% mark stuff like Air Groove Wedding or Tail Held High or Professor of Curvature, all that kind of works as supplementary mid-race as well. These are very, very, very good options as well, and I think most people will be getting Unstoppable and Professor of Curvature on their pace chasers, and they're both very, very good. The mid-race final corners are risky, but they have a lot of upside. If you are able to actually go and pass somebody, or stuff like Speed Star, which is a random point, and you don't hit this dead zone here, you have a higher chance of speed carryover. Aspire is a 0.05, but because if you are within 4 lengths of the leader but not in first, it does speed carryover. It does have about the same amount of value as a white skill. As you can see, a white skill that doesn't speed carryover, but it's a little finicky. Otherwise, any pass skill, if you have enough mid-race that you can actually somehow pass somebody, or you're gambling on inner rail, and you do complete that pass, it's very likely to actually speed carryover. However, again, don't underestimate how hard it is to actually pass somebody on the final corner. That's why I've been kind of stressing these sort of early race velocity skills a lot. So once you're on the final corner, if you do have enough to prep it from like a Professor of Curvature procking, and you are able to get off a Shadow Break or a Ravissant, you are in great position to speed carryover and go and loop into your accelerations. Okay, so they're a little bit more risky, but I think you're going to find that if you're able to get them off, and especially Speed Star this time, if you're able to get them off, it is actually quite good value. And like I said, if Fine Motion Agama sends you, it's not the end of the world. Just go and buy other good skills and other good velocity skills on this list. Professor Prepared to Pass is just fine, in my personal opinion. For late race, I think your primary is going to be some combination of Special Week or Oguri Cap. Oguri Cap, of course, has better dirt aptitude, so it's going to be easier to get higher affinity on it. Otherwise, the free-to-play version kind of is Prideful King and King Halo. I think it's going to be pretty difficult to proc this time because you have to be 4th to 6th. And Fujikaseki should be considered for Lights of Vaudeville. It is a little bit finicky, but it should be perfectly fine. Otherwise, your straight skills, like I said, will have a 50% chance of proccing in the late race. Beeline Burst or Straightaway Adept, of course, is the same way, and Homestretch Haste or In Body and Mind is fine as well. People who use Nothing Ventured know what they are doing, but is a good, I guess, final corner skill in this case, because the 50% mark is the final corner or later skill right now. Note that late race skills that are final corner will be completely eaten by the Excel Zone. So Biwa Hayahide, unfortunately, will be eaten by the Excel Zone this time. So when QED will instantly proc, and you won't get any value from it. Note that this is for skills that specifically talk about late race final corners. They have to say late race in their actual conditions. The scenario skills are the same at pretty much every single CM at best Racing Spirit Guts is a straight Excel, which is not great, so I would not do that one. But the ones you should be looking for are Racing Spirit Powers. Racing Spirit Stamina can be taken, but it does go and drain, I think, 60 stam this time. And Racing Spirit Speed is a semi-inefficient speed skill that has a high chance of speed carryover, so it's good because it just, it has a higher chance of its highs than normal. Otherwise, Ig Power, Ig Guts, perfectly fine as a supplementary Excel. And then other than that, isn't really much else to say on the matter. For cards, default to the best cards that you have. If there's a card that's not on the list, it doesn't have a skill like this, try to use your MLB SRs or your MLB SSR cards that have the best wit speed output in general. This goes for every single one of these roles. When I don't have a card on this list, usually I'm just saying use the best cards that you got. That's what I mean by that. You are probably using Light Hello. Light Hello is kind of the Grand Live card, and she does give you See You Later, of course. For speed cards, you have 3 options that actually give you good speed output as well as good skills. Agnes Tachyon gives you Unstoppable and a ton of pace hints. I just haven't put them all here. Kittison Black gives you Professor of Curvature, and Taiki Shuttle gives you Mile Maven, which is really, really good in vying for position in the early race. It's very likely to proc now that they have changed it to the second half of the early race. They have basically fixed the bug, quote unquote, that caused it to have that dead zone. So it is a lot better now. Otherwise, if you are running SR cards, just know that ECP Speed SR is a very good Pace Chaser card that has very good stat output as well as a ton of Pace Chaser hints. Shinko Wendy does have some mile hints in addition to be probably the best speed output card in the game once she has her friendship bonus up. Vodka has a ton of mile hints, not having the best speed output, and Shinko Wendy does have that skill point bonus with Lone Wolf and Slipstream available to you as well. True Step can technically also be taken by Current-Chan Speed. For Wit cards, Fine Motion does give Speedstar or Prepared to Pass depending how she's feeling on the day. Most importantly, she does have hints for right-handed Fall Runner and Nimble Navigator and Outer Post Proficiency. So a lot of green skills available that are currently relevant at the time. Teo Wit also has Professor of Curvature if you're not using Kittison Black. It's also a pretty good option if you have a lot of good speed output cards and you're looking to high roll by not running Kittison. Of course, Nishino Flower has a Determined Descent. Note that this card, like I said, it has similar wit output to Fine Motion. It's behind by 1 wit. I don't like the cross trainings in particular, which I know a lot of people don't care about too much. I think especially if you're doing like a 2-1-2 deck where you're trying to go and push in something like Daiwa Power, you're going to struggle a little bit because this card's output, because of its lack of training effectiveness, and it's almost all completely based on its wit bonus. I think you're going to struggle a little bit with it. So you may just want a Fine Motion instead. I think you should probably be borrowing Fine Motion over Nishino Wit, unless you're really trying to high roll your wit output. So that's my personal opinion on the matter. It's a perfectly fine card to run. I don't think you necessarily need the gold version of the skill, but it is there if you wish to take it. Otherwise, Nothing Ventured is on Nakayama Festa. For SR cards, right-handed is on Fuku. I think that's the primary. And then otherwise, Daiwa Scarlet Wit is probably the best wit stat stick, I'm pretty sure, in the SR category. You can get Marvy Wit as well if you are looking specifically for Tail Held High and a green in Hanshin Racecourse. For utility cards, I actually have the new Daitaku Helio Speed card because I do not personally trust the speed output. It's so far behind the other cards that I think you are basically using this as a utility card as a third speed option. It's not bad because Perfect Spot is actually a quite good skill. It just has very, very bad trainings. It also gives you Tail Held High. I think the only real other utility card that's really personally viable that has a reason to run is the Daiwa Power card for neck and neck. Everything else I don't think necessarily has a skill that's good enough to warrant not just running 3 speed cards for your own comfort. So the Daiwa Power card for neck and neck is very powerful. If you do get neck and neck on a character, you're going to find you have a lot higher success in general because that 0.4 is very powerful when it actually does hit. Otherwise, if you're just looking for basically, if you're just looking for comfort, you run the 3-2 with the Light Hello deck. It's perfectly fine. You grab as many Stam Sparks as you can. You kind of need around, I'd say 42, 42 stamina plus in your Sparks. And I think you're probably fine to hit around that 600 mark. And you're just kind of filling in with the best cards that you have. Otherwise, if you're running a power card, you will be tapping power every once in a while, especially in the summer, and you will need a slightly less stamina spark, so you probably go and supplement speed a little bit to try to hit that 1500-ish speed as well. For characters, gonna grab a drink real quick. All right, I think the best one still is Taiki Shuttle Camping. With the buff to Neck and Neck and the fix to Mile Maven, now it being second half of early race, it's pretty difficult to ignore her because um, she just has so much in kit. Joyful Voyage is basically a tri-pulse with additional 0.05 in the situations where she's going to win because you're close to that lead horse. Neck and Neck and kit was buffed in the 7-1 patch. Mile Maven was buffed, and now it's like she has the early race with Mile Maven, she has the Excel with Neck and Neck, and she has a 30% power bonus that's just like perfect for the Speed Wit deck because you're just going to generate all your power from whatever number of speed cards you decide to actually go and run. With the Pace Chaser Corners, Prepared to Pass, Shifting Gears and kit as well, it's like this character kind of just goes and builds his health, and she's just ridiculously powerful. With the buff to Neck and Neck as well, Fine Motion Wedding is actually a ridiculously good option as well, in my opinion, because Neck and Neck's that good and it's in kit. She has Changing Gears, which is kind of her early race mile skill, and Best Day Ever is basically a perfect proc point 1 when you're in a situation where you're going to proc Nishino alt as well. So you have the point 4 plus the point 1 from the alt plus the point 2 from Nishino Flower. That's plenty, and you have a couple of greens with the Speed Green and Fall Runner and Firm Condition with a 20% wit bonus to kind of supplement the fact that you don't run Fine Motion Wit on Fine Motion Wedding because you are Fine Motion. And so I'm sure some people are even going to go and run Nishino Flower Wit instead, and that 20% wit bonus, 20% wit increase is going to basically supplement the fact that you can't run Fine Motion, so it kind of evens itself out. Otherwise, I think she's just slightly behind Taiki Shuttle because of the ultimate is just slightly not as good, in my personal opinion, but because I really, really, really like late race at that point at 200 meters, so I think you're going to have a lot of success with Fine Motion as well. Of course, Nishina Flower is good. Budding Blossom is what you're putting on everybody. The only problem is she's kind of 100% hinged on hitting that third to fourth place, whereas the other two are kind of relying on Neck and Neck, which is, first through fifth. So it's a little bit easier. Otherwise, she has Beeline Burst, she has Determined Descent, and Budding Blossom as well. And you can proc Determined into Budding, but realistically, you're trying to hit third place, hit that 0.8 using these two skills, possibly getting a head on and a white to go and supplement, but otherwise Beeline Burst is your late race, Straightaway Depth is some late race, and that 15% speed and power is very powerful when you're pressing the speed button with so many speed cards. Regular Taiki Shuttle, Shooting for Victory is a partial league. As an inherit, it doesn't do anything, but you do get basically 2 seconds of duration of it. It's very good in that regard because you still get about 2 lengths, whereas everyone else is getting 4 lengths. So consider it like a bonus 0.2 Excel. And she has Mile Maven and Changing Gears, so her mid race is basically completely set. So you want late race, you kind of just put like a head on white, which she can technically get through her secret event, but you probably aren't doing it in Grand Live. And you do and like a straight descent, and there's plenty of acceleration, and she has all the velocity for mid race you need, so you just kind of load up on late race. The big thing about Taiki Shuttle that is very useful to you is that 20% speed bonus, and that 10% wit bonus is perfect for pressing the wit button and very good for pressing the speed button. So she is very easy to get a lot of stats on. Fuji Kaseki Ballroom. Ravissant is a lot of speed carryover if it does decide to proc on time. She has right-handed in kit, and she has head-on in kit. She has Speed Star in kit as well, so you don't necessarily need to run Fine Motion for that particular skill if she decides to give it to you, of course. And particularly because of speed, power, and wit bonus on the character, she has a lot of good stat amplification from whatever trainings you decide to actually hit. Again, Ravissant is technically, like I said, these final corner pass skills are difficult to proc sometimes, but if you do end up procking them, it is very, very, very good. So she's very strong. Like I said, a lot of these characters in the first section are very strong. OG Fine Motion. Fairy Tale is unfortunately, it's a challenge, so it's a little bit finicky, especially on these final corner tracks. That yes, it will speed carry over if it does proc, but because you could just wide swing, it's very difficult sometimes to block side continue time. She does have Speed Star. She does have Determined Descent this time, so if you go and put a head on her, she's perfectly fine with the Nishino alt. If you somehow get her long aptitude up and you win I believe it's the Keenan, you do get head on for that. And otherwise, she has 2 greens. This is literally the Fine Motion card with 15% power bonus to help you generate your power in the Speed Wit deck, as well as 15% wit bonus to compensate for the fact that you can't run Fine Motion as a card. So Fine Motion regular is perfectly fine as well in the Pace Chaser position. Christmas Augury Cab. The only reason why you're running this is because it's easier than End Closer. I think that End Closer Christmas Oguri is more consistent, and you run this character for consistency, although Oguri Cap has D aptitude and End Closer, and it's a less chance that you actually hit your mile S plus the end closer as well. You do still have a 76% efficacy. You will still proc your ultimate 76% of the time using Pace Chaser Christmas Oguri Cap. I just don't think that it's as potent as as the end closer version, and I don't think Oguri Cap is as potent as the previous CM, because you actually have other options in the game now with stuff like neck and neck, and the late surges and the end closers have their flash forward to go and fight against it this time. But if you are an Oguri Cap player that enjoys running the Christmas variant, this is an option for you if you don't want to go through all the hoops of trying to get your end closer stuff up and trying to get after school strolls as a trigger. You basically grab a straightaway, if you grab a straightaway recovery or a corner recovery, and you usually are perfectly fine in that regard. And you just grab the white version of Hydrate and 777 because normally you're going to get enough stamina anyways. OG Oguri Cap, Triumphant Pulse is a good skill, and you have 20% speed, 10% power, same as usual. Nimble Nav and Kit as a supplementary excel is perfectly fine. Corner cons there if you actually want to go and gamble. Wedding Air Groove. Eternal Moments will proc at the 50% mark. You usually will proc Is Overtake rather easily, as we've seen with stuff like Nemesis in the last mile champions meeting. It's rather strong, and of course you have 10 speed, 10 power, which is really nice for the speed button. The 10 guts is not necessarily the most important, but it does help a little bit. Big Sisterly and Kit for the miles, Corner Con if you like gambling, and Homestretch Haste and Ramp Up to help you out as well. I think she's actually rather strong. Not a lot of people are going to actually run her. Yukino Bijin. Well, Snowflight is a 300 meter, which is usually pretty safe if you actually hit 0.4, which is any position that you're winning. The big thing is that you actually have Determined Descent in Kit, which is quite nice. You do have NSM in Kit as well. You probably only take Nimble Nab, but it is there if you have additional skill points, and it is actually a rather cheap skill, to be perfectly honest, but it just doesn't proc enough times to fully suggest, let's just say that. Another thing is you do have Downhill Speedster, which about 40% or 35% of the time roughly will actually go and speed carryover itself. So it's kind of like you're building your own downhill Christmas Augury ult with some speed carryover plus Determined Descent, and there you go. You have your like 4.5 lengths on this particular track. So she is rather good, 10% speed. She just isn't like ridiculous like a lot of the other characters on this list. Fuji Kaseki is a mile horse, of course, with Big Sisterly. Lights of Vaudeville is a little finicky because the final straight, for some reason, sometimes you just aren't in the same land as people, and it just doesn't decide to proc. I ran this character, and it's almost like Decay's Vault sometimes. However, they did buff it so that you now get it on the final corner as well. So there's a precondition for the final corner, which does actually help it out quite a bit. So it is a little bit more consistent, and 300 meters is of course completely safe if you do hit your 0.4 excel. Plus the 20% power bonus is going to help you out quite a lot. Ayano Muteki is basically a mid-race demon with a late-race ultimate as well, so you basically have a slightly worse Triumphant Pulse at 300 meters, which is still safe. It's on, one of the few characters that has that in Kit, with Pace Chaser Corners, and finally Homestretch Chase to help you out in the late race. This character is incredibly fun to play. 20% power bonus is going to help you out a lot during the actual champions meeting and during the actual building process. Let's say, gonna grab a drink real quick. Sorry, voice is dying. Narita Bryan. As always, Narita Bryan is just a C4 bomb. Shadow Break, if it does decide to proc, because you're able to actually get off that pass. Speed carryovers quite frequently, and then you have IBAM and Beeline Burst to basically either help you in the early race, but for Beeline Burst, but most likely will just be a massive final straight nuke that will hopefully win you the game in combination with stuff like Triumphant Pulse. Also, one of the few Lone Wolf characters that is actually able to run in this mile track. Wedding Top Gun. The further back you go, she has 10 speed, 10 wit, and 10 guts or stamina. I think it's 10 stamina. Flowery Maneuver in the front half of the pack is basically speed, and if you do end up passing someone on the final corner or later, hopefully it's before the late race, you will get speed carryover in that regard. Otherwise, usually you can run Top Gun pretty much anywhere, and the Wedding variants actually had quite a bit of success in the late surger and the end closer position, so do consider that as well. She does have Shrewd Step in Kit, and if you do run Changeling, you do have the ability to get any of the Excel skills, particularly head on in this case, and you do have Maya's Love Advice, which is of course Fast Learner. For some 2-star and 1-star characters, if you are newer to the game, some options that I think are good. I think one of the best ones is actually Tachyon. Weirdly enough, you can completely ignore your stamina, I think, because you are going to hit third place before the spurt in order to hit Nishino Flower Ultimate. So you put Nishino Flower Ultimate on her, and she has an additional gold recovery for you. So you do have like an additional 100 stamina for free, so you can pretty much ignore it completely and focus on putting a little bit more power sparks. Otherwise, Corner Depth and Kit, a lot of these 2-star characters don't really give you that much. I think that the mid race is going to help you a lot, especially as a newer player. And of course, the HP recovery is going to help you in the build process because you most likely don't have as good of blue sparks as just yet right now. So you can kind of just put your core Lupa on her and try to get as many skills as possible on her to compensate. Sakura Bakashino always is going to be a mile and sprint horse option because of the 20% speed and the 10% wit. Genius X Boxing is a challenge, which is a block side continue time, which is a little bit tough, and you do have to be towards the front. But if it does actually proc, it's perfectly fine. It's the same thing as any of the other final corner skills. It has a high chance of speed carry over. Otherwise, Patience Straits is kind of her one skill she gives you. Mostly, it's the speed and wit bonus that's going to help you out. Air Groove has a high carryover chance because it's final corner pass. It's the corner only though this time, so it is very, very risky. However, this character does give you 10% speed and 20% power. Do note that she also is able to be run as a late surger, and late surgers do have some acceleration options as well that may be a little bit easier for you this time. Homestretch Haste is the only skill that she actually goes and gives you. ECP Victoria Por Plancha. Not the greatest. You do have to be second. This is more, I guess, if you are trying to go for lucky pace, or if you go and you run your groundwork and shrew step and all the stuff trying to get as close as possible to the front to hopefully pass them on a good head-on proc or something. So hopefully you are in close to that first place, hit that second place on immediately in that straight, get a little bit of excel, but mainly you're mostly getting speed in this particular one. 20% speed, 10% wit is very powerful, especially when you're first starting out as well. So this will really be a quite comfy character. It just won't have the most use out of the ultimates. Dive Scarlet is very good if you're able to put everything on her. Resplendent Red Ace will proc in the late race. People forget about that. Yes, will proc in the late race. She does have PTP, and she technically has head on, but you have to run like 12 races, so you probably aren't running it. 10% speed bonus as well. Eventually, you will be second place, so hopefully you will second place in his overtake, meaning that you have at least a 0.25 target speed. If it does high roll and you actually are close to it, it is either mid race or does leak into the Excel zone as well. She is great, it's just she doesn't give you that much to go and help. Regular Mano Top Gun is a no stopping me character. The 20% stamina bonus, 10% guard bonus is pretty difficult to go and use, but Flashy Landing, if you do proc it, does have Excel component on it as well. It's a challenge towards the front, which is top 3. It's fine. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but NSM, it's okay. Like I said, you're probably grabbing the nimble version of it. She does have head on for Changeling as well, and she does have Maya's Love Advice as well if you're interested in that and you like this character. So that's the characters before in the 50% mark, let's say. Here is the checklist to go and release those just looking for this. If you're coming here from the timestamps, welcome. Basically, if you are trying to go and build a Pace Chaser, try to hit your stats. You don't have to hit exactly this, but these should be your goals in my personal opinion. 1500 speed I think is good. Balance of power and wit. Remember that stats are logarithmic, so try to balance them out and don't try to go like 1500 wit. It's not going to be as useful as you balancing out your power and your wit. 600 stamina. For primary accelerations, neck and neck, I think is the best one of the 3 in my personal opinion. Otherwise, head on. Nimble Navigator, Budding Blossom for Nishino Flower ult. Otherwise, Straight Descent and Determined Descent are perfectly fine as well. Try to get somewhere where you're going to hit around 0.6. I think that's generally the sweet spot to aim for, which is going to be enough to win. And then grab mid race and late race as well. Stuff like Oguri Cap Ultimate is very powerful because she also has high dirt affinity if you are looping your parents properly as well. That's videos available in the top right corner, I suppose. I'll probably put a card here for that, but looping is very powerful because you just get more skills than everyone else available to you. Otherwise, good luck building your Pace Chasers. We are going to talk about the rest of the characters that I've decided to put on it. I don't remember which ones I've done it, but here we are. Here's some more characters that I've done. There's so many Pace Chasers, guys. I'm gonna grab a drink. Kopano Riki is a force because of the turf aptitude. I said in the Kopano Riki video, she technically is perfectly viable and at the same strength as any other like any dirt track. It's just the problem is your turf aptitude and the fact she gives you almost nothing. You have literally no skill except Pace Chaser Savvy to help you. You can also run her front runner. It may make more sense to run her front runner because you're going for greens anyways, but basically luck runs my way is always a 40% chance to speed carry over with some excel leak as well. So she is very powerful. It's just you have to somehow find 5 more greens with hitting your turf aptitude twice and hitting your medium or your mile S, sorry. And so it's it's very difficult to build, but she is still powerful, and I'm not sure anyone except for Kopano Riki Oshi players will really go to that amount of effort. Measure Arden, you don't really have to worry about Lifelong Dream snapping your stamina. It's like 30 stamina. It's not really that bad. A 10% speed, 20% wit, it's very powerful, gives you Pace Chaser corners, is otherwise a otherwise you get some value out of the ultimate. It will be partially eaten, but if you hit that 0.4 or that 0.6, you do at least get over 50% of that unique. It's kind of the same thing problem as winning ticket has, is that the new winning ticket ultimate procs on the final straight no matter what you do. So you know, you lose some of it, and that's perfectly fine. Sakurachino O, on the other hand, has a 300-meter mark. So 300-meter mark, like I said, is pretty safe in this one. Speed Star in kit. Otherwise, just the 10 and 10 in speed and wit is going to help you out. Gives you not much else. Gold City Festival, probably run her as late, but if you are able to somehow challenge, and there's a lot of pace chasers, and you somehow are able to hit that 4th through 7th, I believe, I don't think it's happening, but in those few times that that occurs, either in pace or late surger position, it's a 0.3 excel, which is very, very powerful, and a speed carryover. That sounds like Christmas Augury, all right? It's just its block side continue time, so it's almost never going to happen. Wit bonus 14, speed bonus 8, power bonus 8 is perfect. It's just this character, again, is very, very volatile in that regard. Grass Wonder Fantasy, just use base grass. Superior Heal's not going to do anything for you. Special Week Commander, her ult is pretty much completely eaten because it specifies late race final corner. She does give you corner adept and home stretch haste, and I know this is a free-to-play character. It's just her ult doesn't give you anything. But if you enjoy Special Week, I guess you have a stock pace chaser, but you probably want to run late surger to high roll at that point. Regular Special Week, Shooting Star is a great addition to the acceleration plus the current speed. 0.35 current speed plus 0.1 excel is basically like you hit an additional excel. It's really, really powerful. You have IBAM as well to help you out in the late race. You can also run her in the late surger position as well, but do know. But 20% stamina is a little tough. 10% wit is actually pretty good. New Year Opera O, Barcarola Blessings is, I believe, just a tiny bit too early. You do lose about, I think, 2/3 of it if you hit a 0.4. If you hit a 0.6, I think you get most of it though. I'll have to check on that later, but I believe that's correct, but check the corrections in the description if there is any there. So it's a little bit tough, but 14% speed, 8% wit's pretty good. Prepared to pass, pace chaser straightaways, inner post is fine, but they're just kind of basic white skills. Hishi Akibono, I've done the math on Hishi Akibono again. As long as you have less than 12, 14, 23 stamina, effective stamina, you should be fine. If you have more than that, you are not going to proc your ultimate. If you have close to that, around the 1350 to 1400, you're going to speed carry over your ult. It's not worth it because 600 is the actual stamina threshold in this time. So instead, you should just consider this as mid-race and just let it proc at the 50% mark as a primer for something like a Shadow Break, right? So something like a Final Corner Pass, because a lot of times it will actually go and proc that. 20% power is really nice as well. Christmas Hayahide Biwa is kind of fine. I mean, it's just 50% mark. Have you stayed in the front half? You should be staying in the front half. I don't think this will be as much pace chaser heavy as the rest of it. You focus on your mid race so you don't slip behind the late surgers. And otherwise, Embody Mind's a great skill to take because now they fixed it. It's going to give you a ton of late race speed. 12% power and 6% weight is at least something to help you out. You will have to 3-speed it up to get your speed to max. Curran Chan does, I believe, have quite a bit. I think it's like mile E or something, or mile D, but still, you should be able to get that up. Look at Curran. Should proc in the 50% mark. You can pass into it. You technically can leak into it, but I think you are trying to get 3rd and 4th. I believe that's what it is. So look at Curran should be procking rather early. If you pass into it somehow, I guess it accelerations and speed carries over, but otherwise you just have speed, power bonus, and she's perfectly fine to run. Wedding Curran Chan is speed only, the 350 meter mark. You're probably hitting a neck and neck or a head on or a determined descent or a straight descent. And so 350 mark is going to be a little bit too late for the Excel. It's still a 0.25 target speed increase in the late race. 10%, 10%, 10% for speed power wit is really, really good when building characters that only care about pressing the speed and the whip button mainly. Regular Tokai Teo, I believe, is a force with F. I could be wrong, but Sky High Teo Step. Final straight usually will not be immediate. It is overtake. I guess if you're already hitting and you're faster than someone, you're going to get it partially eaten just like Art and Alt, but it's fine, I guess. So just hit 0.4, hit 0.6, right? Technician is Shrewd Step. You probably only take the white version of it, but you can, I suppose. I think you just take the white version of it personally. And head on in kit, I believe in an event, I think that might be the secret event for winning the triple crown, which I think you can do without any additional races. So I think you do it. 20% speed is very, very nice for Tokai Teo, though. Anime Tokai Teo, Certain Victory. Certain Victory, I believe, is target time too. So it should be slightly later because you do have to accumulate time too, so you do lose slightly less of it. It's just she doesn't give you as much. You only have the event skill, so you don't get the Shrewd Step increase either, and you sacrifice 10% speed for 10% guts, which isn't as good in my personal opinion. Team Upper O, Dances for Victoria. I haven't read this one in a while. Close to the runner, ahead or behind on the final or later. There's no late race in this. It should be perfectly fine. On the late race, this should proc more times than not because it's slipstream or PTO condition. It's Toast and Jordan condition, so it is a little bit finicky, but you usually will proc this at good timing. It usually will be a little bit too early for speed carryover, but it's perfectly fine. She has Speed Star and 10% whip bonus to help you out. Symboli Rudolph. The trouble I have with Symboli Rudolph is Behold Thine Emperor's Divine Might needs 3 people, and I'm not sure you have 3 people late race because you should be in third half the time, right? So if you're in 4th place, I guess this secures your win, but if you're in 3rd place, you just don't ever proc your ultimate, so it's like you probably should just run her late surgery if you're running Rudolph. Festival Rudolph, unfortunately, is now a near guaranteed proc on the final corner late race, which means that anything less than a medium track, she just gets it completely eaten. It's really unfortunate considering also she has Fall Frenzy, which is one of the best green skills because it's just 60 power and 60 speed for practically just, the skill points you're spending on green skills anyways. Pace Chaser Straights as well. She, I believe, has 8, 14, and 8 in speed. No, it's Team Upper O, isn't it? I think it's 8. Is it 14, 8? It's 14 speed, 8? It's one of those two. So speed, stamina, wit, I believe. And she's fine to build. It's just you're probably going to lose your unique. You probably want to run her late surger as well because I think you can late proc this by passing into that 5th position a little bit. So there may be a little bit more help in the late surger position. Measure McQueen's a force. Duty to Dignity calls. Proc's fine. You should be within 25% of the leader unless there's a runaway. Then it procs late, I suppose. But 20% stamina is a little tough. And of course, the mile aptitude's an F. Meisho Doto is always going to be pretty much a gamble character, and she is a force this time with mile F. I never goof up's very interesting because if you go and hit a primary acceleration, like neck and neck, let's say, you're going to pass somebody really quickly, and then all of a sudden you have 0.7, which is very, very powerful. The thing is, again, 20% speed, stamina, 10% guts, very tough. Also, Mile F is also very tough. Halloween is also a force. Her ult is eaten unless you hit the 0.6 because it is final straight. You do technically debuff people slightly. It is equivalent of a Tripulse on 3rd, but if you're in 4th, that front person doesn't get this little minor debuff. Otherwise, 0.35 target speeds, perfectly, it's a serviceable late race ultimate. It's just partially eaten unless you hit a ton of acceleration. Big thing about her, neck and neck in kit. Neck and neck in kit's very, very, very powerful. Do not go and dismiss her just because of that. Again, very difficult aptitudes to hit though. 15% wit, 15% power is very good. Right-handed in kit as well. I'm not going to talk about the following characters. I think that they are significantly better in the late surger or the end closer position. And I think you probably should just run them there. Regular Grass Wonder, King Halo, both of them. Regular Gold City, Agnes Digital. Inari 1, Vodka, El Condor Pasa Fantasy, Hishi, Amazon, Gold Ship, Mejuro, Ryan, Machikane Fukitaru, and regular Biwa Haihide, which some of you may be surprised about, but I think you can pass into her ultimate actually rather easily. Tamama Cross, Mambo, Nice Nature, and Anime McQueen. Although I don't know how you get the late D and Mile F. I think you just run the other McQueens. Manhattan Cafe, Winning Ticket, and Tosin Jordan. Measure Dober is one I'm going to talk about, but I think you should probably run her Late Surger. Just know that Downhill Speedster, I think, is what she has in her kit on her events, and the 20% speed and wit is really good, and her unique is really, really good. It's just it also works in late surger, and there's a lot more stuff that you can do with her in the late surger position, in my personal opinion. There's nothing against her in page chaser position. It's just I think she is a lot easier in the late surger position because you just put on your left on her and she's good, right? Agnes Digital Halloween's kind of the same way. It's 4th through 7th on the unique is the real tough part, and it's like you have to be surrounded, which is really tough at the moment at sometimes. But I guess if you're running 3 pace chasers, you can somehow hit the thanks for my life. But it's on and kit's really good, and that's not really bound to the pace chaser position. So I think she's kind of better in a late surger position when you think a lot of people are running the late surgers and end closers with Christmas Fury and such. I think honestly, I think base Digiton's kind of a little better in this track. But this one's actually, I mean, regular Halloween's fine too, but I think you run her in a backliner position. Any of the Super Creeks, Healer Grass, and regular Dober is just going to be kind of tough in general. So I think if you're running them, you run them in the least, what's it called? Least effort, not effort, but the easiest for you as possible to try to high roll the stats as much as possible. So I don't think you necessarily need to be running these characters on this particular track unless you're an Oshi player for Super Creek. Probably just run the regular one, I think, because I don't think there's additional stuff from the. I guess if Halloween's better, but I don't know. Super Creek's really tough, so sorry about that. But these 3 are just kind of tough in general. I pull forward these 4, which is Ines Fusion, Smart Falcon, Summer Marzensky, and regular Marzensky for that matter, and Kiddleson Black. I think those are just better front runners. I think that's pretty obvious. And that's the Pace Chaser guide. I know the rest of it was kind of yap, but hey, there's a lot of Pace Chasers, and I know a lot of people like me talking about their Oshis. I may have missed a couple, but we'll get back to them in a tier list video, possibly if I have time at the end of the CM cycle. This has been the Pace Chaser guide. My voice is dying, so I'm going to keep this brief. But Pace Chasers are fine. We're going to be talking about lasers and end closers. They have a lot of shiny new toys with the Daichi Ruby card coming out tomorrow. And of course, we'll be talking about front runners as well in the future. All that's left is for me to go and thank my members. All right. As always, thank you all for watching. Like I say, always that memberships and support are appreciated, but they are not required. I try not to gatekeep things, and I hope you've just gotten some learning and information out of this video. But for those who go and help me out a little bit on this channel and have given a little bit back, I go and read out everyone, and I appreciate you all. But those in the Warp tier, I do read out at the end of the overview video, and I've been doing it because I can handle them in the various different role guides. So thank you especially the Who, Kikuzi IRL, Immobility, Mr. Merritt, Cresta Gautier, Lucifel, Peter Van Sant, Oscar Van Bruch, Miss Shah, Sage, CD Ogren, Sorcerer, Elise Bright, Etep Pete, Astrosarian, Eva Delta, Scraps, It's Bella Nox, sorry, Curalicious, Brandy Waffen, Tony Lim, Dialectical, Sleepy Bat, Pavi, Trevor Overtone, Oguri Capizza Burger, Dalagante, Jeffreyism is to Goat, PH Bant C, Giras Ariantes, The Real Meisho Doto, Awex Scubs, Tokai Teo Monarch, Bellio NC, Summer's Moon, Saifa, CM, Frisk, Ferizali Bear, Aoi Tori, Dev Null, Ramiro Ray, Error Hentai, Viet Kuhn, Arfenis, Just Some Major, Hungry Llama, Ghost Muffins, B. Celia, and Josephone. Thank you all for watching. Take care, everyone. Gonna probably work on the late surgery or the end closer guide, at least one of them, and then we will go from there. Hope you all enjoy. Take care. Burb out.